Hi everyone, it's great to be back. Today I'm joined with Cam Calkoen. So, welcome to my interviews, Cam, and thank you for participating.
Hey Tegan, it's really cool to be here.
Tell a bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. My name's Cam Calkoen, and I've been really fortunate to be living a life as a full-time inspirational speaker. And I kind of pinch myself. I'm like, wow, how is it that I've got to this point? Because, I'm being born with cerebral palsy. I was told that my biggest challenges would be in the way I walk and the way I talk. But I guess I never let that be the distraction to my dream. Now I speak sort of 4 or 5 times a week around New Zealand, Australia. Last year I was in America. This year I'm going to Canada, and I just know that what's got me there is just having a passion to really make a contribution to the world, realizing what my strengths are. And really one of the greatest kind of compliments I get is when people say, thank you for helping me identify my opportunities, because that's what it's about. When we start looking at the world as, from a strengths perspective, when we start looking at what are our opportunities, I believe that's how we stay inspired and we stay motivated for much longer.
What were some of the experiences or influences in your early life that kind of got you to this point?
Yeah, so I remember growing up as a teenager, and I'd be reading books and watching movies and listening to people who had achieved great things. And growing up here in New Zealand, there's always been that sporting dream.
When you were growing up, you said you were really into sports. How was that influenced by your cerebral palsy?
Right through school, I always played anything from cricket through to basketball through to athletics, and I guess the way in which cerebral palsy may have influenced that is a few things. So, growing up, when all my friends were going skateboarding and doing all this cool stuff, I was going to the hospital to do things like stretches and physio, and I got to a point where I really just didn't want to be going to the hospital anymore. I didn't want to be doing stretches. Like I had no meaning for doing that.
Yeah.
But when I got into my sport, I realized that I had to be flexible. I had to be strong. Sport inspired me to do my exercises. And the biggest thing would have probably been up here, the top 2 inches, and just getting over the mental barriers that we put in place. I ran well, but I also aware that I ran differently. And when you're on a track and you're surrounded by young children who are so honest, it was a rep session, so you had to do 10 times 200 meters, and I got to the fifth 200-meter start, and we were all these kids of a 100-meter start, which meant I had to run past these kids. And I nearly didn't do it because I was like, I don't know if I can handle them coming up and laughing at me or saying crazy things. But when I said to myself, Cam, who cares what anyone thinks, just do it. And I did it. I ran past these kids, and as I crossed the finish line, they came in behind me. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to say for me? I was prepared for the worst, and there was no point in preparing for the worst because they just said the most beautiful things. They said that when we are your age, we'd love to be the equivalent of you in our sport.
It's amazing that you've been so communicative and been so active, because I think it is hard for people with health conditions or disabilities to kind of see themselves being able to participate in sports or those kinds of activities. So it's great that you and other people out there doing Paralympic type sports.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. The coolest thing about it is that when we have these things that we can go on and do, those are what help define our character and build our character.
If you had some facts to share what having cerebral palsy was like.
Okay, so cerebral palsy is a physical disability which is it starts as a mild brain injury, which is the cerebral part of the brain, which affects the way in which messages travel around the body. So, in a perfectly able-bodied person, their messages would travel smooth. And in my case, they hit a whole lot of speed bumps. So my voice is a little bit shaky and shows around my limbs, but unfortunately, in my case, what you see is what you get. But generally, everyone's different.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who either don't know people with disabilities or don't know somebody with a particular type of disability. So the kind of intention to me with the series is to kind of share people's experiences and help to show that we all have these identities and these lives that are bigger than our condition or our diagnosis or
Totally.
our label, but also to help people understand that this part that is kind of fundamental to our life experience is something that they can understand and help us to work around. Do you think you would be the same person if you were unknown?
Oh, that's a good question, eh? And I would like to think I was. I'd like to think that my life, whether or not I had cerebral palsy, would be exactly the same. I often say if there was a magical cure to make my disability disappear, I wouldn't take it.
Is there anything that you want to share with the viewers?
When we start something, it can be scary, it can feel so alone, you can feel that you're the only one. But the more you go back, the more you start embracing that opportunity, the more you grow. And then, got to tell people what we want to do. Because if we don't tell people what we want to do, it's easier to drop out. It's easier to fail. It's easy because, no, I know what you want to do. We want to have people that are going to motivate us, and we want to just just go out and do it.
If you can give us your website or your Facebook page.
On the website www.camcalkoen.com, CALKOEN.
Find those links and when I post this video, I will be sure to include those. So hopefully anybody new to you will come along and find you, and
Sure.
hopefully some of your friends and followers will come and find me.